Good day to you on Saturday, the 13th day of June in 2026. We will be continuing our series in synthetic geometry following this very important video announcement here from AE. Up here in the corner, you'll see the Glenn Diesen show. It's a podcast where he interviews top-notch experts on international politics, particularly concerning the war in Iran and the war in Ukraine and the war that's about to come to Russia. So it covers global politics. I've been following Glenn Diesen for a number of weeks now, quite faithfully, because it's the most accurate source of information on the global situation. The reason I'm interrupting our synthetic geometry series is because of something you'll see here. I'm going to play a very brief segment of this. I strongly recommend watching this video, which just came out a few hours ago. I want you to see what it says here. Calvinist. Calvinist. Now, the man on the right is Sergei Karaganov. You can look him up if you wish. I won't go into detail now because I want this to be brief. He's talking with John Measheimer. They're not debating. They're exchanging information for our benefit under the auspices of the Glenn Diesen interviewer. He's an amazing man. He's Norwegian. John Measheimer is probably the most respected political analyst in America and has been for decades. And Sergei Karaganov has audience with Putin, as he did with several prior heads of Russia. So he's been around for a long time, and he's taken very seriously. He is an advisor to the Kremlin and has been for decades. This is a remarkable bringing together of two very important human minds for the impartation of information that you and I may want to know about what's going on in the world. Now, they're talking about Russia being threatened by Europe and particularly by Germany, although also by England. This is over the 1 hour mark in a 100-minute interview sequence. So this is well on into what they've been talking about. Again, very well worth listening to. It just came out today. Glenn Diesen produces daily. He's an amazing source of information because of his incredible guests and his tremendous ability to steer the conversation in a very helpful direction for people such as you and me who really are not experts in any of these areas. What Sergei has been talking about at this juncture has been the historical position of Russia with respect to Europe, where it's often overlooked, in fact consistently overlooked, that the main Holocaust in history was not the Jews. It was not the Armenians. It wasn't even the Ukrainians. The Jews are very low on the list, both in terms of numbers and in terms of importance, since the Jews don't matter for anything. They lost their nation for very good reason, and they've been wanderers on the earth for 2,000 years for extremely good reason. It's because they had a corrupt nation. And I won't go into detail there because I could be accused of anti-Semitism, which is not even a real word. What we're talking about is essentially genocide and racism directed against the Russian people, who have lost multiples more than the Jews, Armenians, and Ukrainians combined in the attacks of Europe on Russia. And we are simply never taught that in the West, certainly not in my generation, but now it's very important to realize that they're being attacked again. Germany is rearming. England, which is the asshole of Europe, is of course completely mobilized against Russia. They're racist, they hate the Russians. The Germans don't naturally hate the Russians, but since they have a land border with basically only Poland in between, they've had numerous conflicts which has affected Russia. The Germans never experienced a genocide, except in wartime. You would have to say there was a certain amount of ruthless killing as the Russians invaded Germany. But there was never a genocide. Both when Napoleon invaded and when the Europeans invaded Russia in World War I, and of course when Hitler invaded Russia, there was mass genocide. and it was racist. That has not gone away, and because of the nature of governments, it's now being rekindled in Germany, which wants to rearm and get nuclear weapons and wipe Russia off of the earth. That is no exaggeration, and that has come to the fore now. It's no longer NATO. The Americans are backing away from NATO because America is running out of strength. But Europe, even though it's right now, it seems pathetic, that could change very quickly, and in fact is changing very quickly. But what Sergei just mentioned really arrested my attention. Sergei is a religious man, and he understands the religious role of Russia with respect to Europe. And now he came out with a statement about Calvinism. Now, you may not know exactly what Calvinism is, but I do. I'm a student of Christian history and have been all my life. The Calvinists, named after John Calvin, are a band of racist murderers. And that includes all the Protestant churches in America. All of them are racist. All of them are white supremacist. No matter what they say about Jesus and universal brotherhood, they do not act according to what they say. And America is absolutely white supremacist racist. And if you don't know that, it's because you're not a mature man. I'm telling you, I'm not asking you to agree with me. You can go your way, but if you listen to me, I'm going to tell you the truth. So this is amazing. I stopped this video. I haven't even heard it all the way through because I stopped it to make this video. And now I'm going to play the segment, which I want you to hear. The closed caption, the words that you see, will sometimes be a little jumbled because the machine that tries to transliterate the voice doesn't always get the words right. Here you says, Europe will come to their senses, not the census. Europe will come to their senses. He's looking into the future with respect to Russia. That eventually they'll realize that they can't conquer Russia, but he makes an exception for northwestern Europe. He's referring primarily to France and England, which absolutely hate Russia forever and indeed will never come to their senses. But the reason he gives is because of their religion, which is a hateful religion. It's false Christianity. And that's what Calvinist means. John Calvin is considered to be one of the leaders of the Reformation at the same time as Luther, which was a few centuries ago, as you surely know. But John Calvin was a murderer. He was definitely a racist. He was an out-and-out murderer. And I will be giving some links to some books that you can read on that subject, which are strict history, talking about what Calvin did. For instance, to a saint named Servetus, who was against the Trinitarian heresy. He objected to the Trinity because it's blasphemy. So Servetus was right. And he actually was a healer. He was an itinerant doctor. And he had extensive correspondence with Calvin, earning him Calvin's hatred because Calvin, of course, believes in the Trinity. So that's what Sergei Karaganov means by the Calvinists. So this is an incredible insight for you and me. I already knew it, but I'm certain that you did not know what Sergei is talking about. So without further ado, I'm going to play a brief segment from this, and then we will have no further comment. Please feel free to leave me comments, because I'll answer any questions you have about this extraordinary sequence.
Is very important. We all remember how ugly they were during Napoleonic Wars, during the First World War, during the Second World War. We should never give them that opportunity again. However, there are different Europes. And I believe that in the future, say 20 years from now, some Europe will come to the census. But Calvinist Europe should be pushed aside, not eliminated. And it is the source of most of the evils. We all remember what Europe has been. And I believe that in, say, 20 years, if we survive this period of hostility and turmoil, Southern Europe, Central Europe, will join in a community of Eurasian nations, will be led by Russia, China, India, Iran, Turkey, together with the United States, but without Europe, and especially without Northwestern Europe. That is the best chance for humanity. I have just
All right. It's hard to overemphasize how epical was Sergei Karaganov's statement about the inclusion of Calvinist Europe in the future of humanity. He says that they must be left out. Iran, India, China, Turkey, and Russia, and he includes the United States, which is quite optimistic, which is worthy of a diplomat. He's looking into the future in the best scenario. But under no scenario can Calvinist Europe be included in the family of nations because they're uncivilizable. They're the source of every evil idea that's ever appeared on Earth. That's a slight exaggeration, but statistically well defensible. What Sergei is essentially saying is that Russia is moral, but the Western European Christians, what he means by that is the Protestants, that they are uncivilizable, and I fully agree with that. That's an extremely important insight, because it's the Protestants who are attacking the people of God, who are the Islam people, and those are the only real Christians. Catholics were never Christian. The Protestants cannot be considered Christian, not only because of their barbaric behavior over the centuries, but because of the source of their barbarism, which is they essentially do not believe in Yeshua as the prophet that Yeshua said he was. Muhammad does believe in Yeshua and calls Yeshua his brother. And he actually claims to have met Yeshua in heaven. And he's not the only man who claims to have been taken to heaven under the guidance of angels. Johann of Patmos, who wrote the book of Revelation, was also taken to heaven, and he also met Yeshua. Enoch was taken to heaven, and he was shown something which I cannot tell you, because you would not understand what I'm saying. But he is in league with Mohammed and John of Patmos, who represents the risen Lord Yeshua as the prophet of Yeshua, the last of the Israeli prophets, after which not only were there no more Israelis, and there had been no Israelis for centuries up to the time of Yeshua, there was only one tribe left after the two deportations, one of which destroyed 11 out of 12 of the Israeli tribes, because God hated them and destroyed them. But he kept Yehuda, which is Judah. That's where we get the word Jews from. Then the Jews were kept around, where they completely degraded themselves in Babylonia, where they had been taken in exile. That's actually where Ezekiel and Daniel made their prophecies. Then, under one of the leaders at that time, I won't go into detail, the Jews were invited to go back into their land to rebuild their temple and reestablish themselves, which was quite generous of that leader, but that was due to the providence of God, because the Jews had to be in Judah in order for Yeshua to be born according to the prophecy of Enoch. It wasn't Enoch who said where Yeshua was going to be born. That was eventually disclosed by at least one of the Israeli prophets, who said that the coming one, who is the elect one, would be born in Yehuda. And in fact, the city was named, which is why Herod was able to find out. Herod was the puppet leader under the Romans, the leader of Judah at the time under Roman occupation, and Herod found out from his advisors where the future king of Israel was going to be born. And Herod's response to that is written in the New Testament. He attempted to murder every child under, I believe it was 2 years old, to be sure that he killed the coming Messiah. However, you can read that story. The parents, the earthly parents of Yeshua, took their newborn infant and fled according to a word they received, "Get out of here." And they did. They went into Egypt. And so Herod did not succeed in killing the infant, who grew to manhood and was eventually murdered by the last of the Jews, after which they were kicked out of Israel according to the Mosaic curse and have not been a people since. But then you know what happened. And that's due to the machinations of powers that I really can't disclose to you, although you may already know why the so-called Jews, who are now back in Israel and believe that they have reoccupied their native land. They're actually European whites who hate Christians. And since there's no need to hate the Protestants, since they are not Christians, and the Catholics have no significance whatsoever, except as global-scale thieves, that leaves only the people who believe in Yeshua as a prophet, which would be Christians. And those are 2 billion Islam people alive today. They've been around for over 1,000 years. They fully believe in Yeshua and his gospel that's in the Quran. Muhammad swore to it. He met Yeshua, and he knows him, and he loves him. Protestants hate him. And that's what I wanted to tell you. And that's 20 minutes. Thank you. And please leave any comments you wish, no matter how hateful, no matter how degrading to me or the message that I just gave, so that I can answer you and put you in your goddamned place. It's too late to be arguing with someone who knows what he's talking about. We just heard this from a Russian, a Christian Russian. I wonder if John Measheimer is a Christian. Perhaps I'll look that up now. Keep looking up. We'll be back with Synthetic Geometry, the secrets of the universe which I've discovered. Thank you for tuning in. This is a very difficult time we're going through. We're in the apocalypse and we're heading for Armageddon, when Israel will get theirs. And don't worry, God is going to win, and he will vindicate the Islam people. He will not vindicate the Protestants. And again, the Catholics are already condemned to hell. I hope you understand wisdom when you hear it. You're going to hear it again. Thank you very much.